Hey guys, it's Josh with No Dad, No Problem, featuring how-tos, interviews, and reviews you can use. Today we're going to be having an interview with a good friend of mine, Dan, from Defensible Risk. Dan has been a cybersecurity professional for over 20 years and has seen the evolution of home computing, business networks, the internet, and more. He streams on Twitch multiple times per week, focusing on technology, cybersecurity issues, as well as fitness. Not only does he have a wealth of knowledge to share, but he also holds a record as the only person to put me in the hospital more than once. We're going to do this interview via Skype as Dan lives over 1,000 miles away, and we'll be discussing what kind of a person should consider a career in computing, what steps non-tech geeks like us can take to better secure our phones, our home networks, and more. Any links we discuss, including his Twitch stream, Twitter, and more, will be available in the show notes. So without further ado, let's get to the call. All right, Dan. Hey, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining us so much. I did a little bit of an intro about you before this video started, but if you can give us a 2-minute rundown on what you do professionally, how you got there, and then talk a little bit about your Twitch stream.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me on the show with you. I appreciate the opportunity. Again, my name is Dan. My Twitch stream is called Defensible Risk. We are a cybersecurity show or stream on Twitch, which is a little outside of Twitch's normal situation, but I'm working backwards here. So let me start at the beginning. I was born a long time ago, but no, a bit of a joke. I know you'd appreciate that. So I'm a cybersecurity professional. I've been in IT for longer than I'd care to admit, I suppose. Professionally, probably 25, 27 years, something like that. I've done just about everything in IT, from turning screwdrivers. I've stood in Christie boxes pulling fiber optic cables through pipes underground. I've climbed ladders to second and third floor ceilings. So just all sorts of IT experience that I've had over the years have brought me to where really I found my passion. And that's the secret, I think, that's really brought me the most happiness. Happiness is too strong a word. The most joy in what I do. A passion for cybersecurity. I've always been into breaking things, and then so I can figure out how they work. Yeah, you're smiling because you know. We've known each other for more than a minute, right?
Yes, sir.
So, been into breaking things, whether they're physical things or computer things, and I found that I was actually pretty decent at breaking the computer things, which brought me into security. So, I've been doing security now full time, let's say, for 5, 6 years, something like that. Before that, security was part of what I did in the consulting field, but now it's full time. So I actually have the opportunity to run a security department for an organization near Lake Tahoe, near the California-Nevada border. And so I'm pretty excited. Really like the organization I'm with. Really like the people I'm doing. Wow. That I get to work with. Yeah. Well, don't tell the wife I said that. We can make jokes, right? We can make jokes.
We can always make jokes.
That's right. So, yeah, it's been going great for me. So really the next step, to make the next step in my career, for anyone in my position, you have to have a public presence, whether that's writing a blog, whether that's having a podcast. And I looked at those two options because those are pretty safe options. I didn't want to write 10,000 words a week. It sounded like work. I'm like, that doesn't sound fun. Sounds like work. And I didn't want to get into the podcast game because there's so many out there in the security space right now. I'd be one of 8,000. So I was trying to figure out what could I do that's similar enough to get myself a public face, but different enough to get noticed. That's where Twitch comes in. I've been on Twitch for a couple of years as a viewer only. I said, this might be a great place to not only make my public place, build my resume, but share some of the cybersecurity knowledge that I've put together over the years with people who aren't necessarily paying attention to it full time the way I do. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. All right. So I'm going to be giving you some basic cybersecurity questions that'll help out our viewership here. The first thing I want to talk about is phones. Everybody seems to have them. When it comes to phone security, as a cybersecurity professional, do you have a recommendation between a passcode for locks, fingerprint scanners, facial recognition? What should people use?
So how honest do you want me to get? That's the real question.
As honest as you want to be.
Okay, so I'm going to speak from a United States perspective. So I can't speak to anybody else in your audience anywhere else in the world. As far as passcodes versus fingerprints versus facial recognition, anything like that, passcodes are going to be your best bet for one reason. Because it is something that you know rather than something you are, like a fingerprint or a facial scan, you cannot be compelled by law enforcement if you are pulled over to give up your passcode. They can make you unlock it with your fingerprint, they can make you unlock it with your face print, but they cannot make you give up a passcode. That has been settled, at least argued in the courts repeatedly, and current precedent of the law says that. Now, if you don't have problems with law enforcement, I love law enforcement. I work closely with law enforcement at least weekly, if not daily sometimes. And they are good people who are doing good things, and I appreciate what they're doing. But if you are privacy minded and you aren't willing to take that next step, then passcodes are your 100% best bet. Now, as far as other security goes, if somebody steals your phone and it's fingerprint locked and they do know your passcode, well, then of course you have the issue there where they can type in your password and unlock the phone. But as far as daily use, on my personal phone, I actually do use fingerprint because, again, I have good relationship with law enforcement, and I don't expect that I will be running into them in the wrong way at any time. But there is one caveat to that, and I will give you the quick caveat. So I'm on Android. Some people love iOS. Either one, make sure you're on the latest version. But if I tap my fingerprint reader incorrectly, let's say 5 times, it locks out the fingerprint reader. And so I actually have to use a passcode now because I locked it, or I hit it 5 times inappropriately.
All right, great. So how big of a problem for phones are viruses and malware, and what can we do to prevent that?
So it's an excellent question. Viruses and malware are a real thing on phones. They're not as widespread as they are on your desktop computer or your laptop computer. They are a problem, and usually they come through apps that you install. If you are sideloading apps, if you have jailbroken your iOS device and you're getting apps from anywhere other than the official app store, you run a greater risk of getting a virus on your device. Now, that being said, sometimes, particularly on Android, you hear about it more, but it has happened with the Apple Store. Viruses will get snuck into either an update or an application, and it may not be a traditional virus that we think of where it's stealing your information, but it may be an ad clicker or some other kind of malware that is inappropriate for use on your device. So they are out there. They're not as broad or not as widespread as on your desktop machine or your laptop, but still a concern. And you want to be smart about where you're getting your apps and which apps you're getting.
Okay, so moving over, you mentioned desktops and notebooks. Same question for home computers. Will virus scanners, especially free ones like Avast, will they work as well as a paid program like from Norton or from McAfee?
So that's sort of a tricky question. A lot of times the answer is yes. So there is a large database where the different antivirus vendors share information about the viruses they discover. So if you're running Kaspersky, if you're running McAfee, if you're running Avast, if you're running AVG Free, whatever, they all look at these same databases because they want to help each other protect people as much as possible. Now, what you run into is a difference in features, and you'll tend to get more features with the paid versions than you will with the free versions, whether that's web security kind of stuff, don't go to this website, we know it's bad, whether it's more advanced protections rather than traditional antivirus for looking at your stuff. But most of them will offer at least a base level of protection that is very good, very solid. I'm a big fan of Windows Defender, the free one that comes with your Windows installation. I think it works really well. And again, they have that same database that they share. And you can actually get an idea of what that database looks like by going to virustotal.com. And if you have a file that you're not sure about, you can actually upload it there and it'll get scanned against 60 different engines, I think. So as far as which ones go, I personally use the Microsoft Defender, Windows Defender for my home use. And then in my corporate environment, we use a paid product because of the level of support that's available.
All right, well, I appreciate that. Okay, so I want to talk Wi-Fi for a second. What are some of the dangers that people could face connecting to public or free Wi-Fi that they're walking around, they stop at Starbucks, internet is slow on their 4G phone, coverage is spotty. Hey, there's Wi-Fi sitting out there for me. What kind of dangers or vulnerabilities are they risking by connecting to those?
Okay, so there's really two big ones that I concern myself with. Number one, there's no encryption. So anything that I send from my device to the Wi-Fi can be read by anybody else who might be listening. Now, you may not have anybody listening, and so it's not as big an issue. But if somebody is listening, they can capture all of that traffic, all of that data, and reassemble it down the back end. If you're visiting non-secure websites, most websites anymore have become secured and have encryption between you and the website. But there are still some out there that are not secure. All of that, if you put in, let's say, a password, is being sent in the clear, and someone can capture that and capture your password in that case. The other thing is what we call an evil twin attack. So if the Wi-Fi is called coffee shop Wi-Fi, if I'm an attacker, I can go nearby, set up another access point, and call it coffee shop Wi-Fi. You'll connect to mine perhaps instead of the real one. I will be happy to pass your data through, so you won't even know that you're connected to mine. But along the way, I can insert things into your web browsing or your email experience. I can capture 100%. I don't just have to listen passively, but I can actually actively capture everything that you're sending, including your encrypted data. And with enough time, all the encryption will break down. So if you're a high value target, a business person, whatever, you really have to be mindful of using those free services.
Okay, great. So I want to just ask a couple questions about just a career in cybersecurity or computers, because that's what you've been doing for over 20 years, as you stated. So would you recommend a career in computers or cybersecurity to people?
If you have passion for it, that's really what it comes down to. There are a lot of days where what I do is very exciting, but there are a whole lot more days where what I do is very boring. Let's try that again. A cybersecurity analyst looks at lots of data. They review what happens going across a network or with a computer, trying to figure out what's normal. So when they find things that are not normal or anomalous behavior, then they can say, this is a potential incident. This is an event that's happened. This is a potential incident that we need to explore further. So that's where you start out. But if you don't like looking at lots of data, now what I found is if you're transitioning from another career field, accountants and people working in accounting type fields make very good cybersecurity analysts because they're used to looking at lots of data and they're used to looking for things that are outside of what they're expecting to see.
Okay. And if somebody wanted to get into it, what kind of education or certifications would they want? And is college necessary?
So it's going to depend on your organization. Some organizations are looking for that unicorn who has a master's degree in cybersecurity and 5 different certifications and 10 years experience, and they want to give you an entry-level position with that. Other organizations aren't concerned about that. For me personally, I've hired people who have certifications. I've hired people who don't have certifications. It just depends on the person, what they're bringing to the table. I can teach people to do cybersecurity, but I need somebody who is curious and someone who is willing to learn. So it's really going to depend on the job that you're looking at. If you get into a larger market, it would probably be more difficult. So if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area and you don't have any background, it's going to be more difficult. If you're in a smaller market, even let's say, I don't know, I'm going to pick on Boise, Idaho. If you have a knack for it and an interest in it, you are more likely to be able to get those positions. So the larger markets, Los Angeles, Austin, San Francisco, New York, Boston, any of the really big tech hotspots, you will struggle if you don't have certifications. There's a number of different certifications out there. Usually the basic one you start with is the Security Plus from CompTIA. But again, education can't hurt you, whether it's in cybersecurity or in something else. But having a degree is very helpful in those larger markets. It helps set you apart from other people. Now, if you're in the Bay Area where they've got, Silicon Valley, you're going to need 3 PhDs probably.
Yeah. All right. So are there any misconceptions about careers in computers that people have?
Number one, they think they're only for nerds. That's really the big one. Most of us are nerds. I won't argue that. You're laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But not every computer job is necessarily super nerdy. Now, if you're doing help desk, if you're building computers, it certainly helps to have that nerd or tech background. But there are other fields where you can get into, like business analysts, where you work with customers on one side and IT on the other side, and you translate business needs into IT needs. That is not nerdy at all. Those people are amazing. They do they do God's work, honestly, because you have to deal with the users as business people. So if you have a business understanding and some IT understanding, you can certainly get in there without having that full IT background.
Okay, we'll wrap this up. Is there anything you'd like to add before we get going?
Really, if you're looking into cybersecurity just for yourself, not even as a career, but just so that you can be more safe when you're online, uh, the it's CISA, it's the U.S. government. CISA and Department of Homeland Security have a program. It's called Stop, Think, Connect. It's a fantastic program that I highly recommend. Even if you don't are outside the U.S., still look at this program. And really, it's those three basic steps. Stop what you're doing if you're not sure. Think about what the consequences might be. And then when you're comfortable, then go ahead and connect. Those three steps can save you a ton of grief.
All right. So where can we find you online?
Oh, well, thank you for asking. So let me give my quick sting. At Defensible Risk on Twitter, Defensible Risk at protonmail.com if you want to email me securely. DefensibleRisk.com has an archive of all of our cybersecurity and technical content. And if you want to check out the show when we're streaming live, it's twitch.tv/DefensibleRisk.
Okay, I'll get all of those addresses into the show notes, so that'll be viewable for anybody who wants to check those out. Lastly, can you tell us a clean joke?
A clean joke. Wow, you're going to make me think about. So my favorite anti-joke. What did the farmer say when he lost his tractor? Hey,
What?
where's my tractor?
Boo. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know that you've got some things you have to do. You've already streamed live twice on your Twitch page today, so you're a busy man. Your time is valuable. I appreciate it. Hope to talk to you soon. And if people have more questions for you, hopefully we can get you back on the stream or back on the channel.
I'd love to come back at any time. You just let me know. Thank you so much for your time, and I love your channel. You're the best.
Oh, you're the best. Take care.
Bye now.
Thank you again to Dan from Defensible Risk for taking some time to be with us. Be sure to follow him on Twitter, watch his streams on Twitch, and check out his website at defensiblerisk.com to see his archive of videos that he has created. If you have any questions for Dan, email him directly or post them in the comments below. I'm sure he'll be around YouTube. He could answer those for you. And if you'd like to see him back, again, get us a list of questions you'd like answered. He is here to serve, and we're here to help with that. That's about it for us. Be well, be blessed, be loved, and have the best day ever.